Goblin launch detected.
This video is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc. with free weekly content and free shipping on orders over $150. You can save 5% site-wide by using the promo code MTGMudsta. If you're looking for a direct way to help the channel, please consider joining my Patreon and becoming a member of the generic Goblin Gang. Hey gang, and welcome back. I've got the M's back with me, with Mackenzie, Mika, and Maximus joining me. In today's game, I am once more playing Magus Lucea Kane, keeping an island, forest, Reshape the Earth, Skyshroud Scout, Ruin Crab, Bloom Tender, and Mana Bloom. Mackenzie is playing his Torsten deck, keeping 2 forests, Command Beacon, Rampant Growth, Cultivate, Rumor Gatherer, and Nissa Ascended Animist. Mika wants to exile some cards with Faldorn, keeping 2 forests, Volcanic Torrent, Escape to the Wilds, Kadama's Reach, and Demon Bolt. Maximus is playing the pre-con flip deck with Okaun and Zndrsplt, keeping 2 islands, Mountain, Flamekin Village, Mindstone, Goblin Archaeologist, and a Footfall Crater. I win the die roll and start us off. I play a forest and cast Skyshroud Scout. Maximus just plays a tap Flamekin Village. Mika plays a forest and passes. Mackenzie has a Plains for turn and passes to me. For turn 2, I draw, play an island, and cast Bloom Tender. Maximus plays an island for his turn and casts a Mind Stone. Mika has a Mossfire Valley, and then taps 2 mana to foretell a card and passes to Mackenzie. Mackenzie plays a Sungrass Prairie and taps 2 for Rampant Growth. He goes to grab a basic, finding one for the field, and then passing. My main phase has me paying 3, putting 2 into the X of the Mana Bloom, so it'll come in with 2 counters. Once it's in, I remove one of them to make a blue, and cast a Ruin Crab. After that, I pass to Max. Maximus has a Mountain for turn, and casts a Goblin Archaeologist. He's still got enough mana for a Commander's Plate, and passes to Mika after that. Mika's got a Forest for turn, and pays 3 for Kadama's Reach. He passes, searching for his basics so that we can move the game forward. Mackenzie has a similar play, but has no land for turn just yet. He remedies this with his copy of Cultivate, and announces he'll play the land he finds to his hand for his land return. He then passes to me while searching. I play a tap Temple of Epiphany, scrying 1, and milling my opponents for 3 cards. I then remove a counter on the Mana Bloom to help cast Magus Lucea Kane. Moving to combat, I put her +1/+1 counter onto herself thanks to her trigger, and pass to Max. Maximus has an island for turn, and then taps enough for Zndrsplt. Moving to combat, he gets his coin flip from his commander, but fails the flip. With nothing else, he passes to Mika. Mika plays a command tower for turn, and then brings out Faldorn. With nothing else, he passes. Mackenzie plays Yavimaya, Cradle of Growth as his land drop, and then plays out a Rumor Gatherer. With that resolving, he ships the turn to me. My upkeep has the Mana Bloom bouncing back to my hand, and I then draw for turn. I tap Lucea Kane, the Bloom Tender, and a land to pay 6 mana into Open the Ways, putting 4 into the X. Magus Lucea Kane's ability also gives me a second copy of this, and I resolve my first one, revealing until I hit my first 4 lands. Notable ones are Guildless Commons and Mystic Sanctuary. The Commons entering bounces a forest back to my hand, and I shuffle the revealed cards and bottom them, while my opponents mill their top 12 cards thanks to the Ruin Crab triggers, and I then move to resolve my second copy. This time around I hit 2 more bounce lands, returning 2 lands to hand, and milling my opponents for another 12. Once that's all done, I then activate the Scout to put out Command Tower, which I just bounced, and I get to mill the table for another 3. I then play a Forest for turn, and mill them again for 3 more. With nothing else, I move through my steps, and during combat, I add another counter onto Lucea Kane. Max draws and plays out an arcane signet in his main phase. He taps 4 mana for Sakashima the Imposter, and has it come in as a copy of Zndrsplt. Max then goes to combat and gets his first of 2 flips. He gets the first one, drawing 2 cards from the Zndrsplts, and then flips again. He fails that one, and then the subsequent one from the second Zndrsplt. Moving to combat, he declares attackers, and goes at me with both of his creatures that can attack. I decide not to block. Maximus then plays a Shivan Reef, and taps it, losing 1 for a red, to cast Footfall Crater onto a mountain. He then ships the turn after that. Mika taps 1 red to cast Demon Bolt from exile, and targets the Sakashima copy of Zndrsplt. This takes out the copy, and makes Mika a 2/2 wolf token. He then casts a Volcanic Torrent, and cascades into a Tectonic Giant, which he casts and gets another wolf token. The Torrent then resolves, dealing 3 to each of Mika's opponent's creatures and planeswalkers, and with the board mostly wiped, Mika then passes. He then moves to combat, swinging Faldorn at Maximus, and deals 3. Mackenzie has a command beacon for his turn, and then taps enough for Torsten. With his commander coming in, he gets the Enter the Battlefield trigger and reveals his top 7, hitting 3 lands and a Mentor of the Meek. He puts them to hand, and then passes through his phases, moving to his end step and discarding down to 7. I draw and tap a bunch of mana, casting Reshape the Earth. The table breathes a sigh of relief that the Rune Crab is gone, thanks a lot for that Mika, and I go to find 10 lands of my choice. I grab a Field of the Dead, a stack of mountains, Valakut, and Alchemist Refuge. I get 10 zombie tokens from the field, and 7 Valakut triggers. I put 2 on the Giant, 2 on Mika's face, 2 on Mackenzie's face, and 1 to Max. With nothing else, I pass. Max untaps and draws. He is very pleased since he drew Krark's Thumb, which is pretty much a linchpin for this deck. And he then plays an Inventor's Fair. He then casts the Thumb. He then pays 5 mana for the other half of his team with Okaun, and then activates the land with Footfall Crater to give Okaun haste and trample. He moves to combat and begins to flip, but we use dice instead. He gets an extra flip every time thanks to the Thumb, and he gets 5 in the row before failing, drawing 5 cards and then doubling Okaun's power 5 times. Okaun is now a 96/96, and he goes at me. I block what I can with the zombies, but die no matter what, and Max then passes to Mika. Mika has a Soul Ring for turn, and then casts Escape to the Wilds, exiling his top 5. He plays a Cinder Glade, and then a Mountain from exile, making 2 wolf tokens, and I do my best impression of what Okaun just did.
4 mana. Oh no, here I go murdering again! 1, 2, source.
Mika then plays Heart's Desire to make a 1/1 human token, and then casts from exile a Lovestruck Beast, and makes another wolf token. With nothing else, he passes. Mackenzie has a land for turn, and drops Nissa, Ascended Animist. He downticks her to blow up the Thumb, which is probably a good idea, and then ships the turn to Max. Max untaps and draws. He plays an island for turn, and then casts Spark Double, which he has come in as a copy of Okaun, but it comes in with an extra +1/+1 counter. Max then taps his Footfall Crater to give it haste and trample, and then taps 4 mana to cast a Ready. He then downticks the Planeswalker to swap the Mind Stone for the Thumb in his graveyard. Moving to combat, he gets 3 triggers, 1 from Zndrsplt and 1 apiece from his 2 copies of Okaun. He then begins rolling, and ends up getting 10 successes in total, which has him drawing 10 cards and doubling Okaun's power 10 times in a row, which has the Spark Double being even bigger than his actual commander thanks to that 1 extra power. He then swings the Spark Double 1 at Mika, who gets taken out. Max then moves to his second main phase and plays Temple of the False God, which he then taps for a Swiftfoot Boots. He then passes, discarding down to 7. Mackenzie draws, and we're all waiting to see if he's got a board wipe. He plays a Forest for turn, and then upticks Nissa, creating a 7/7 token. He then plays Shamanic Revelation, drawing 2, and gaining some life which I forget to mark down, but is largely not relevant. He then passes to Max after that. Maximus gains 1 life from the fair on his upkeep and draws her turn. He moves to combat and needs to only get 3 successes to make his Okauns big enough to take Mackenzie out even with blockers. He ends up rolling 9 successes, drawing 9 cards, and doubling Okaun's power 9 times. He then swings both at Mackenzie, who knows when he's done for, and he clears a path for them to come and bash his face in. Game review time. This game was only 33 minutes and 11 seconds, and I would actually say most of it was either me making everyone mill or Maximus rolling some dice. When I sat down with the deck in hand, I did not expect to mill my opponents out for almost a third of their library, but when the deck gives, the deck gives. It was cool to see, and I'm glad I got to do a lot of the landfall abilities. Admittedly, it was probably good that Mika wiped the board, because if the Rune Crab had been out when Reshape the Earth resolved, they were going to lose another third of their library. Mika's Faldorn deck had a lot of timely answers, but unfortunately his board state was not progressing as fast as he would have liked. I think the fact that his ramp only started happening around turn 3 and later really hindered him a little bit, but he did get to play some cool cards from Cascading and Exile, which is what the deck wants to do, and I'm always glad to see it. This is the second or third time I've seen Mackenzie's Torsten deck, the first of which beat us soundly, whereas this time it seemed to be a lot more conservative. The Rumor Gatherer makes a lot of sense in his deck since so many creatures come in, and even the Mentor of the Meek seems like a decent card draw. Unfortunately, when your commander costs as much as Torsten does, it's slow going, and oftentimes you don't get him out until mid-game. Torsten at least has a very valuable ETB effect and on death trigger, but as we saw, when you're getting swung at by a 96/96 and or bigger, 7 power and 7 toughness and then 7 1/1s isn't going to keep you in the game. I believe Maximus was playing the untouched heads I win, tails you lose deck. And my goodness does Footfall Craters do work. I knew it gave haste, but I never really clicked with it giving trample. That's just nuts. Other than that, I thought it was a really fun deck to see in action, and all the copies of Zndrsplt and Okaun did a lot of work for him. This video wouldn't be possible without the help from my sponsors, Cool Stuff Inc., Multizone, Original Magic Art, and Alter Sleeves. But it definitely wouldn't be possible without the help from you, the viewers, and my patrons. So I just want to say thank you for watching, and to remember, friends are just opponents you haven't eliminated yet.